She said that after the suicide of her brother Steve, she had found herself in a dark wood of sadness, anger, grief, and confusion. And so, as I said, I decided to check out the Italian text as well as the English text. And in doing so, I discovered that the last word, the word which is translated lost, smarrita, can also be translated bewildered. Yes, the straight way of living life in an ordinary fashion from day to day was lost when Steve died, and she was bewildered, pushed out into the wilderness, the wild place where no one wants to live. The road was lost and bewildered, and so was she. If you look at the table of contents, you'll find in the highly evocative chapter headings a list of the spiritual tasks that she needed to work on in order to find her way through and out of the dark wood. Here then is what she did. She created a sanctuary for herself, quote, in the soul storm of suicide, unquote. She faced and acknowledged her loss of Steve. She found refuge in her journal. She permitted herself to reel from the shock. She wrestled with stigma, guilt, and shame, and she contemplated the unfathomable. She took time to mourn in a society which doesn't support mourning and grieving. She rested in the holy land of the heart. She released Steve's life, but not her relationship with him, and she searched for any meaning she could bring to her experience of loss. She walked through the door of loss, grief, acknowledgement, stigma, guilt, and shame to the open landscape on the other side of the dark wood. She undertook the journey of the hero, a pilgrimage of the heart, something that for her was her soul's imperative, a command from soul to self to begin and to complete her pilgrimage, which she has done, and to which the book we launched today attests. I found it interesting that the translators of Dante in the second line of the poem use the phrase, I came to myself. I came to myself. Now, as you may know, a reference to coming to oneself is the crunch point in Jesus' story of the prodigal son in Luke, which can just as easily apply to a prodigal daughter, that is to say, to anyone who finds himself or herself in, quote, a distant country, unquote, far from the holy land of one's own heart. When the prodigal in the story came to himself, he set out on a journey of reconciliation and resolution, which the story then relates. As I perceive it, this is what has happened for Donaleen in her writing of the book. She has come to herself through this tragic event and her response to it in a deeper way than ever before. Well, you know how this works. Of course, we live with ourselves, we come to ourselves, and then we have various experiences. We think we're as close to ourselves as we can possibly be, and then there's something that brings us closer to ourselves, deeper into ourselves. As she heard our mutual friend Sheila Fodchuk say in a talk about bereavement by suicide, losing a loved one to suicide plunges you into a depth of soul that few others share. And she wrote the book from that place of new depth. Indeed, reading the book, I knew that I was treading on holy ground. So now she finds herself on new shores, with new companions, with new dreams. She has embraced what she calls the wise one within, the transcendent self, what Thomas Merton calls the true self. Her relationship with Steve continues, transformed. She knows herself now as what in truth she has always been, a citizen of the Holy Land of the Heart. a country that in principle belongs to all of us. This is a book which I would, without hesitation, give to any adult who loses a loved one to suicide. In reading it, I experienced both the beauty that can come out of tragedy and her courage in not leaving her sorrow unattended. I thank her, I salute her on behalf of all of us for giving us the gift of this book.